Welcome back to the Arbitrary YouTube channel. In today's class, we'll be learning how to make this beautiful keyhole corset blouse. Okay, so it's a corset, as you can see, it's a cupped corset, and then it has this keyhole yoke. Okay, so I'll be teaching you how to make this, and then how to turn the keyhole neatly with lining, as you can see. If this is something you like to learn, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so I'll be drafting this directly on my pattern before transferring to my fabric because of the modification we need to do. Remember, this is a corset, so I'm going to draft my basic bodies first because this corset actually has a yoke, so it's not going to be an off shoulder. I need a full half block for this. So this is my armhole line, this is my bust point, my under bust, and this is my half length. So I'll make all this into a straight line. So after marking all that, I'm going to take my shoulder measurement. My shoulder is 15 inches, sorry, divided by 2 is going to give me 7.5. So I'm measuring 7.5. I'm going to drop it there by 1 inch from my shoulder slope. And then for the neckline, I'm using 3 inches by 3 inches. So I can still modify this later if I want. Okay, so I'm going to draw out my shoulder slope here, and then for my armhole, I'll repeat what on my armhole line. I'll repeat my shoulder measurements, which is 7.5. I'll make that into a straight line. Then look for the midpoint of this. So this is the midpoint. On the midpoint, I'll go in by 1/2 inch. Here I'm going to take my bust measurement. The bust I'm working with is 36 inches divided by 5 is going to give me 9 inches. So I have 9 inches here. The next thing is to connect from this point to this point to this point for my armhole curve. So now I have my curve now, and then I'm just going to connect everything. And then also on my neckline area, I'm going to connect my neckline curve. Okay, so now the next thing is to start drafting. So my nipple to nipple, that's from one bust span from one nipple point to another, is 8 inches. 8 divided by 4 is going to give by 2 is going to give me 4 inches. So I'll mark 4 inches like this, and then I'm going to make it into a straight line. Okay. Yeah. So for my dart, I'm going to take a dart of 1 inch on my under bust, okay, and then I repeat that also on my waistline, and then I'll make that into a straight line. So this is a simple and very beginner friendly way of drafting a corset. Okay, so to join this to my bust point, remember this is the bust point, this is the under bust, this is the waistline. Okay, and this is the armhole line. So to join this on my under bust, on my bust point, I'll go down by 0.75 inch because I don't want it too sharp. And once I have that, I'm going to connect it using my curved ruler from this point all the way to this 0.75 on both sides. So I have this, so all this dart is going off. So for my bust dart, I'm going to try to get my circumference measurement. So I've measured my 9 inches. I like to take my bust dart because it just helps to eliminate all those rumpled effect that you may want to have under your bust area. It will tighten everything and make it as flat and smooth as possible. So I always like to take my bust dart when I'm making my corset, but if you don't want to, it's okay, but this has been working for me, so I just prefer to work with it. So my bust is 9 inches, then the waist I'm working with is 30 inches. Divided by 4 is going to give me 7.5. So I have 3 inches here. I'm just going to move away from the dart so that I will not have a shortage, and then complete my 7.5 inches mark here. Okay, so here you can add 1.5 inch for your 1.5 inch for your allowance, and then you connect it like that. So for my bust dart, from the bust point here, I'm going to measure 2 inches for my bust dart, the standard, and then I'll connect that to my bust point. So all this also is going to go off. So to create the neckline for this corset, I want the neckline of the corset to be like a sweetheart neckline. So to do this, I need to know the depth of my corset. That's how deep I want this corset to be. So you can maintain your chest line, which is 9 inches. If that is too low for you, you can maybe use 8 inches, 7 inches, or whatever it is that you want to use. So because I don't want this too low, but I may still modify it, I'm just going to put 8 inches tentatively, or I'll just maintain the 9 inches that I have here. Okay, so this is going to be the depth of my corset. But if this is too low, this may expose the boobs a bit. So if it's too low for you, you can do 8.5 or 8 inches. So let's say I'm doing 8.5 inches, I'll have 8.5 inches there. So now the next thing is to create my yoke. Okay, so for this yoke, I don't want the yoke too deep. So on my armhole line, I just want to measure around 6 inches or thereabout, 6 or 5 inches, which is around here on my armhole, because I want a little of my armhole on my basic body, on my corset bodies also. So after creating that, now I'm going to use my curved ruler to connect from here to the depth of my armhole in a curved way. Okay, so I'm connecting that, and this upper part is going to be my yoke. So now to tighten this part, because this is a corset and you don't want it to be gaping on the upper part, for it to rest firmly on your body, we need to tighten it. And to tighten it, I'll be taking a dart of half inch at this part. So I'm going to take a half-inch dart here, and then half-inch dart also here. Then here I'll just go up by half an inch also, and then I'm going to connect it. So this is going to help me to tighten my corset on the upper part there. So this also is going up, but if you notice, we have removed an inch dart here so that we don't have a shortage on this part. I'm just going to extend what I have there, and then I'll measure the 1 inch that I'm going to be taking off here. So once I have that 1 inch, I'll redraw my armhole curve. Okay, so with this, you're not going to be worried that your corset is going to have a shortage of that 1 inch tightening that we took. So now to the point we are done with this. So to create our corset pattern, remember at the center point, that's between the two breasts, there's always this midpoint at that point. So for that midpoint, it depends on how wide you want it to be or how big the bust is. So for me, for this person, I want the space to be around 1.5 inches. So for me to have 1.5 inches on fold, I'll have 0.75. Remember, this is still on fold. So from this point here, I'll measure 0.75. That's 3/4, like this, and then I'm going to connect it to this upper part. So this 3/4, I'll take it down to my bust point measurement, which is here, and then using my curved ruler, I'm going to connect to form one part of my corset. I'm going to connect from the under bust to this part. Okay, so from here, using this curved ruler, I'm just going to connect like this, and then you can see that I have one part of my corset. So to create this other part, I need to close this dart for me to connect this other part. But before I do that, I want to create my keyhole yoke. So for this, remember, I have a 3 inches by 3 inches neckline, so I want to extend the width of my neckline a bit. So I'll be going by 1 inch, which means I've changed this from 3 inches to 4 inches. This depth is still okay, so I'm going to connect this back to my neck depth. Okay, so I've altered the width now. I'm no longer using this. This is my new width for my neckline. And then also for my, okay, so now to continue this, because I don't want any issues when I'm joining this to this, I want to check what I have here. Okay, so here I have around 3¼ and then here I have around 3½ inches. So definitely when I'm joining it, this and this may not be equal. So here I just want to extend this to out to be exactly what I have here. Okay, so I just have a little like 1/4 inch there. So I'm extending this like that, and then I'm going to redraw my curve to match up with the new line that I have here. Okay, so this is just so that I don't have any issues with joining this. I don't want one to be longer than the other, so with this now they are going to match up perfectly. So to create my keyhole from my neckline, where my neckline stops, I'll be going down by 2 inches. Okay, so I just want that space to be around 2 inches. It can be 1 inch if you don't want it too wide. It can also be ½ inch depending on what you want. It can also be 1½ inches, but I think 2 inches is fine for me. So I'm measuring 2 inches there, and then from that 2 inches I'm going to connect it to the second dart leg. Okay, I'm not connecting to this first dart leg because I'm still going to join this, and I don't want this to be giving me issues. So from here I just connect it directly to my second that leg there. So you can connect it in a straight form using your straight ruler, or you can just use your curve to connect it so that it will be slightly curved around that part. Okay, so all this part is going to be opened to form my keyhole. So if you are not okay with this, if it's too small, you can reduce this a bit also and then reconnect it depending on what you want. So this upper part now becomes my yoke. So because of this yoke, because of this keyhole that I have here, I don't want it to be gaping around this part also. So I'm going to be tightening it. So to tighten it, I'm just going to take a dart around here. So to guide my dart, I'll measure what I have left on my shoulder point, and then I'll make a point there, and then from that part I'm going to draw a straight line from here to that point. Okay, and then I'm going to take a dart for tightening. So here I'm going to take a dart of ½ inch and also ½ inch on this side. You can do 1/4 inch, and then I'm going to connect it like this. So this is to tighten my yoke so that it's not going to be giving me gap. It's not going to be gaping around that part. And this ½ inch that I have added here, I need to replace it back here because I don't want it to have any shortage. So since I have 1 inch here, so ½ inch plus ½ inch is 1 inch. So since I have this 1 inch here, I'm just going to take it up like that. So now I'm going to connect from here to here back to my upper part. I hope you get that. It's not difficult. So now I'm redrawing my armhole. So this is going to be my new armhole, and I'm through with this. So now I can cut out the yoke part so that I can close this for me to connect my underbust. Okay, so this is my yoke, and I'm cutting it. So this keyhole, this gap dart that you took here, you just need to open it and hold it with a tape. Okay, you're not going to be sewing it because you're not going to be having any joining around here. So let me just cut this out so that we'll see what I'm saying. So you can see that this forms our keyhole. Okay, we're going to be having this space there. So for this dart now, I'm just going to slash it, and then you blend it in when you are cutting directly on fabric, then place them on each other. Okay, so like I was saying, because of the dart that we took here, this part is not going to be equal, so you need to smoothen it out. So I'm just going to fold in. Remember, this is my dart. So I'm just going to fold in the dart now and then close the dart. So after closing my dart, I'm going to hold it with this tape. Okay, so I'm just going to close it and hold it with this tape, and then I'm going to fold the tape inwards like this. So from here now I'm going to reconnect this. So you can place a paper underneath it, but I just want to use this paper tape. That was why I made this longer. So I'm going to retrace my curve now. I'm placing this curve, and then I'm just going to make up for the shortage that I have there. So after retracing it like that to meet up with what I have, I'm going to cut this out. Okay, so this is what I have. You can see that my yoke now is smooth, so I'll keep this aside as my yoke and then continue working on my corset. So now I'll cut out all this. And then I'm going to close my bust dart. So I'll close this bust dart also, and then hold it with the tape. But for me to close the bust dart, I need to open it on one side to make this easier for me. So I'm closing the bust dart now. And then I'm going to hold it with a tape. So again, on this side, you may want to have shortage there, so you may place a paper underneath it, and then you use it to smoothen it out. Okay. So now this is what I have. I'm just going to take my ruler again and then reconnect this because of the dart that I took there. So once I reconnect it, I'm going to cut this out. Okay, so you can see this part now is smooth also. So I'm just going to use my tape to hold this together with the paper that I have underneath it. So now I can complete the other cup for my corset. So from this underbust here, I'm going to place my curve again and then connect it to the armhole area here, and then I'm going to draw a bust cup, another cup there, to complete the other side of my corset. Okay, so now that I have this, I'm going to draw this, and you can see that we have both of our cups. So now I can cut this out. So I'm going to cut out my dart. So the dart is cut out now. The next thing now is to cut out the cup area for both sides. Okay, so this is the first one, and this is the second one. So this is a 3-piece corset, which means that this cup that we have just two, we are going to be creating and the third piece. Okay, so now I'm going to join this together like I have sewn it, and you can see how smooth it is here because of the checking that I did. Remember the shortage that I have, which is here, I added it back, so that's why it is that smooth. So I'm just going to place it like that now and hold that part with a tape. Okay, so after holding this with a tape, I'll take my measurements. So here I'm going to go down by 2 inches. So you can do 2 inches, you can do 2.5, you can do 1.5, depending on how big you want it. So if I'm doing 2 inches, I'll do this. I can also do 2.5. So if I'm doing 2.5, I'll have 2.5 inches here. Then at the midpoint also, I'm going to measure 2.5 inches. Okay, which is here. And then also on this last part, I'll also measure 2.5 inches because that is the shape I want. So you can do 2 inches here, you can do 2.5 and 2 inches here, just depending on what you want. And then I'm going to be connecting those 3 points. Okay, so if you don't get everything at once, you can also use your ruler as a guide to connect it. I'm just going to be connecting it in a bit. So I'll connect this to this first, and then I'm connecting from here to the last one. Okay, so from here I'll connect to the last one. You can also use your free hand for this. Okay, so here you can smoothen it out here, just so that okay, so after smoothing this out now, you cut it out so you can see. So now we have three parts. This is the first one, this is the second one, and this is the third one. So before you detach this, you need to label it. So I labeled this 1, 2 and 3. Then I noted that this is going to be the up part, this is the down part, that's the part that I'm sewing to the rest of the cup. And then here I'm noting this as the side front and this part at the center front, because if you detach it, it may be a bit confusing. So after labeling it, just something to make you identify this so that you don't get confused when you're sewing it. So I'm going to detach this now, and then I have my 3 pieces bra cup. So now this is the center front here. This, you note this as the center front because I'm going to be cutting this on fold. But if you want a seam line there, you need to add seam allowance for it. So which means you're going to be cutting all this on your fabric, and then you add half inch seam allowance all around where you're going to be sewing to. And this is my yoke. Okay, so these are all the patterns that I need for this corset, and then I'll go over now and cut this on my fabric. Okay, so for the back is quite simple. It's just a normal back body. So if you want to modify this as much as you want, it depends on you. But the major thing we need to change, remember for our front neckline we increased this to 4 inches. So we need to do that here also because we're going to be sewing it. So I'm increasing this by an inch also. And then for the depth of the back neckline, I don't want it this high, so I'm just going to be going as low as maybe 8 inches or 9 inches. You can also decide to have a yoke on this also. If you want to add a yoke to this, you can even maintain your 9 inches shoulder point, and then you can make like a V shape here. Okay, so you just break this, and this upper part here become your yoke. That's if you want a yoke, you cut this here, you cut out your that, this upper part become your yoke, and this becomes your lower part. So it depends on you and what you want to do, but I think I'm just going to be leaving this as a piece here as it is, and then I'm going to cut it out. So this back contouring is very important if you don't want your back to be gaping. Okay, and then for a corset you can either use I'm doing this because I'm using a zipper for this. So if you want to be using a lacing, there's a way you're going to be doing that also. I think I have a video on how to do that already on the channel, so you can decide to do this anyhow you want, but I'm just sticking to what I have here. So also this now, I'm going to go over to my fabric and cut this out too, and then I'll cut the front part also and bring it back to show you. So like I said, if you want to have a yoke to this, you just detach it from here, then this is going to be separate. You can cut it with another fabric, and then this becomes the lower part of your back. So this is my back piece. Okay, so I'm gonna have to cut this on my fabric, you can see, and then I added all the necessary allowances. So this is the main fabric, the ankara fabric, and I'm lining it with this orange doll face. Okay, you can use your regular spider lining or aba lining or whatever. Okay, so now to prepare your fabrics, ideally you should add maybe interface or soft gum stay or hair stay to this, just to strengthen the fabric. I'm just going to go over and do this, and then on the cup part, on the main fabric, I just added this soft wording to it. You can use a medium texture wording, or you use a ready-made bra cup. So these are my 3 cups, all cut out with the lining exactly the same, and this is the main body. So here I added allowance. Then on the side I forgot that I already had included allowance in my pattern, so I'm just going to cut it off. But I just want to show us, if you don't have allowance already on your pattern, you should add like 1 inch allowance on this side to join it. And then this is the center front. So here it's on fold, so I don't have allowance yet. Then I added half inch round this, and then this is my yoke. So for my yoke, remember that this center part here has to be cut on fold also. Then this is the lower part, I added allowance to this also, and then I also cut my lining. So now the next thing is for me to sew this. So to sew it now, I'm going to explain it with the pattern. So I'm going to sew the cup first. So to sew this cup, remember I've notched the side. So here on my fabric, I just notched this side, this center front side. You can see that I placed a notch here, and they are very similar, so you have to be careful. So you know that you can see that I'm still placing my pattern on it. So I'm just going to arrange them so that I don't get it mixed up. So now I'm going to pick one of these now, and then pick another one of these. I know they go together, so I'm just going to place them side by side and then pin them together, so that when I get to my machine, I'm not going to be confused. I know I'm sewing this to this. Then the second one also, I'll pick this and this, I'll put them against each other and pin. So I know this will go with this also. Okay, so now for the lining, the same thing applies. I'll pick them one after the other and pin. Okay, and then for the remaining part of the lining, so you just need to do this for the cup parts because they are similar. I'm also going to pin this. So now that I've pinned this, then I'm left with this one. So this third piece here, remember that we have the up and down because I labeled this. So on the down part, which is what I'll be sewing to my other part of the cup, what I have done is notch this. So on the lower part here, I just notched it, and then this is the armhole area, so that is also notched. So you can see on my fabric, I notched this part at my lower part, and then this part at my armhole area, so that I'm not going to get confused. So when I finish sewing this to this, I'm just going to pick one of these, anyone that corresponds. So this is the side part for my, this is the side front part for my bra cup. So I know the side front is what is going to correspond with the armhole area, so you can see. And then this is the notch part that I'm going to sew to the rest of the, so these notchings will just guide you. So after sewing this now, I'm going to go ahead now and sew this to this also, and then I'll bring it back. So I'll do this for both the main fabric and the lining, and then bring it back so that we can continue. So I've gone ahead to join them together, and this is what I have. So if you cut this correctly, you should have exactly this. Okay, you should not have anywhere being longer than each other. If you cut this correctly, so that it will just fit right into the space that you created for it. So these are the cups for the main fabric, and these are the lining cups. Okay, so now the next thing you are going to do now is to open all these stitches ideally. So you place this on your tailor's arm and then open it out and then iron it flat. Okay, so here also you open it, you iron it very flat, and then you iron it on this upper part also, so that it will form this shape very well for you. So after doing all that, you iron both the main fabric and the lining. The next thing now is to assemble the main fabric. So this is the side front and this is the center front. So now if you remove your center front, because it's cut on fold, and you open it out, this is what you will have. Okay, so after having this now, you're going to place your two side fronts on it to form that cup. Okay, to form that space for your cup. So here now you're just going to place this against each other, you sew it, you place this against each other, also you sew it. So everything you're doing now, you're doing also to your lining. And then also for the yoke part, I'm going to remove the pin, and then I'm going to place the yoke main fabric against the lining. Okay, so you need to turn this. Remember, this part, this keyhole part is going to be exposed, and you don't want that place rough, so you're going to be turning it before you attach this to your fabric. So now I'm going to place it right side facing right side. I'm going to turn it out on my neckline area. I'll turn it out on this keyhole area. So here you can actually leave this part because we are still going to turn everything with lining. So if you are not going to be adding sleeves to it, you can turn this armhole also, so that it will be neat. But first I'm going to turn it on the neck and then sew it here. So I'll go over and do all that now and bring it back to show you. Okay, so it's sewn now, and you can see that I have them together. This is for my main fabric and this is for my lining. And then also for the yoke, I've sewn it on the neckline part and the keyhole part. So now I'm just going to notch this and then I'm going to turn it over. Then you give all these a good press. I don't have power right now, so I'm just doing this, but it is very, very important. Okay, if you want your corset to come out nice, you should iron every step of the way. It is very important. Okay, so now from this armhole area, I'm going to turn everything out. Okay, so the yoke is turned now. This is what we have. You can see that it is neat on the neckline area and then also on the keyhole area. So it shouldn't be this puffy. By the time you iron it, it's going to lie flat for you. So now the next thing to do now, and also all this part, you should open all your stitch. So the next thing to do now is to fix in our bra cup. So this is the center front part, so I've notched it. I know this is for this and then this is for this. So you match the seam line for your bustier dart here also now, and then you sew it. Okay, so you just sew this round to your box. If you did this correctly, it should be exact. You can see, so it have to match. Then you do this for the other side also. So I'll take it, this video is already very long, I don't want it too long, so I'll just go over now and sew this to my bustier, and then I'll also do this to my lower part. Then I'll also fix the cup for the lining also before I show us how we are going to be turning this with the yoke. Okay, so I'm gonna install the cups. You can see that they match perfectly. They have to match. So this is the side, this is the upper part, and this is continuous to the armhole. This is it for the other side, and then I did the same thing for the lining. So they have to match, especially remember we have a V shape here. So at this point, if you want to further broaden your shape, you can do that. You can just hold this now and then go. What I mean is that if you want to go lower than, remember, I think I used around 8.5 for my depth. So if you want to go lower, you can still go down, then shape it to that side. But I'm okay with what I have here. So now to turn it, the next thing I'm going to do now is to place this. Okay, so I'm going to be placing my yoke on this, so you can see your yoke also have to match. So I'll place it like this and then turn it. So here I'm going to sew it to this, and then on the other side also I'm going to sew it. So after sewing it, I'm going to place my lining on it like this, and then I'll sew in my lining. So this way my yoke will be in between the lining and the main fabric, and then I would have turned it out neatly like this. So this is what I'm going to be having. So I'll go over now and do that and bring it back to show us. Okay, so now I've sewn it, as you can see, on the neckline area, and then I went ahead to notch it so that it can relax well. So I've not ironed this at all. Please, when you are doing this, this is a requested tutorial and I had to just do it urgently. So please iron when you are doing yours. So when you turn it out, you can see that the yoke is in between the main fabric and the lining, and it is neat both inside and outside. So now you take this to the ironing table again and give it a good press. Okay, so see what we have. The notches have even helped us to make it lie as flat as possible. So this is our corset and this is our keyhole on the, so if we check the inside, you can see how clean it is on the inside. So now this is my back panel. Remember we drafted the back and then I added allowances where necessary, so I just use it to cut it. So now you just need to close your dart. Okay, so this dart that you have here, you close it and then you sew it to your shoulder area. Then after sewing it to your shoulder, so this goes with this and this goes with this. So that is after you must have fixed your lining to this. So I did not cut lining for the back because my fabric was not enough. So just enough for the front, and it was important for me to show us how to turn the keyhole part. That was why I cut lining for the front. So now I'm going to sew this, join the shoulder together and then join it by the sides. And then if you notice, when I was drafting my, remember we took a bust dart on this, so when I was drafting my front, the half length for the front was 17 inches, while the half length for the back was 15 inches. So it has 2 inches shortage from the front. And because we closed our bust dart, once we close that 2 inches, that this will automatically match up with the back. So you can see that the side matches here now. Okay, so you should take note of that. So I'll go and do this now, then take it to the mannequin so that we'll see what we have. Okay, so this is what our corset is looking like. You can see the keyhole part. So when we were drafting, remember I went in here by 0.75 because I said I want the gap to, I want between each of these cups to be 1.5 inches. So this is the gap I was talking about, and this is the corset. You can see outline, and then the balls that will just help you to tighten this area. You can see that there is no rumpiness around here. It's just going to lie flat for you. That's why I like to take my bust that. And this is the other side of the corset. This is the yoke part. You can see how beautiful this is looking. So I'm here to iron this. That is why you can see my lining sticking out here. So you should iron it as flat as possible. Okay, I've not ironed this at all, but if you want your corset to come out really nice, it's important for you to iron it. Ironing is key. So here on the neckline, there's a tip you can add when you're sewing this. When you're turning it, you can add maybe a hemming gum to this when you're sewing it, so that by the time you flip it over and iron it, it's just going to make it stick for you. Okay, the hemming gum is going to stick the lining and the main fabric together so that they can stick well, and then you can add your skirt or whatever, or jumpsuit or trouser or whatever it is that you want to add to this, and it can also stand alone as a top. I hope you enjoyed making this blouse with me. If you enjoyed making it, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment and subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.